You and I, of course, are here to talk about how to align security with business outcomes. Clearly, we have some work to do in this regard when it comes to critical infrastructure. So, what are your initial thoughts?
Yeah, and I'm gonna take a bit of a contrarian view on this one, just because, well, I don't know. It seems to be how I'm bent. I didn't set out to be that way, but it's the way I am, but it's interesting because if we look at how it was reported, it was hackers, but we don't know that for sure. I mean, we can use whatever definition we want, but was it a nation state or was it a 15-year-old kid?
Yeah.
Um, Tried to poison it, or it happened to hit something not having any idea what lie could or couldn't do, what the levels couldn't do, right? Hanlon's razor says, don't attribute to malice what's more easily attributed to stupidity. So what was this an intentional we're gonna get them, or was this someplace wrong person, wrong time? Now, to your point, swift action on the part of a supervisor, somebody saw it. They claim that there are other fail safes. I'll take them at their word, especially when it comes to toxic chemicals. So was this narrowly averted mass poisoning, or was this misplaced focus on security at the risk of everything else? Let me give you a little bit more context, because I've actually had these conversations. So let me start by saying I get it, right? Like when we talk about aligning security with the business, part of that means we need a more clear, more accurate picture. You'll hear me say a lot, prescription without diagnosis is malpractice. So the questions then are, if you're not in security, but you know what you know about security, and you have to choose between $2 million to reallocate and update the valves and the pumps, or $1 million to upgrade the security infrastructure, how do you make that choice?
Yeah.
Right?
Mm-hmm.
Because we like to reframe it as, just tell them they got to drink from this water too. And what would they do then? Yeah, but that's not really how they get looked at, right? I mean, public works is under pressure everywhere. They too, like the rest of us, they've got to do more with less. They have less people, have less qualified people, perhaps. Maybe they don't have the same training they wanted. And they also have an aging infrastructure. They've got to have money. I had this conversation with a power company one time, and the guy was pointing out to me that those transformers, those little ones you see on the poles, I don't remember the price, $500,000 a piece. He's like, I can only carry 20 of those. And then he was showing me substations. He's like, this one is $24 million. I can only keep one spare. If two go down, I have a problem. He's like, so here you are yapping at me about security stuff, but seriously? But then you look at the flip side and you say, well, why were they using remote access software? Pre-pandemic, this was already starting to happen. Part of the reason for that is, how do you find somebody who's going to go to one of these remote facilities and sit there for 12 hours? You would think it's a no-brainer. It turns out it's not. And again, because these are often public works or utilities, they're restricted in what they can pay somebody. They're restricted in how they can make that work. And so they're faced with, well, do we not put an operator there, or do we figure out how to get an operator to work remotely? Last piece to all of it is, when were these systems purchased and what was their lifespan? I don't understand why this happens, but you'll go buy the massive control system, the $50 million investment, and it's anticipated to last 20 to 25 years using a software system that's anticipated to last 5 to 10 years.
Yeah.
It's a complete mismatch, but we keep running into that. And so what happens then is it gets really easy to sit back on the sidelines and say, oh, yeah, I'll tell you what they should have done. How? With what budget? At the expense of what?